Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Big Blue Offensive Podcast with Mike Trainer, Jay Jules, and John Depot. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the BBO NYG Podcast. Back from vacation. I'm Mike. That's Jules. We try to get a podcast done like last week, right? Or 2 weeks ago, whatever the hell it was. So I came on. I was like, all right, guys, let's do it. We're going to record Monday. Like, no, let's do Wednesday. I'm like, all right, guys, we'll do Wednesday for sure. Then I'm like, I hit the text. I'm like, all right, guys, you ready? Jules, nope. He was out drinking somewhere in the city on a Wednesday, right? Then John was
Happy hour,
like,
bro.
then John was like, nah, fuck it. I'm not doing the podcast until training camp. And then I did an edible and I was watching Oz, the HBO show Oz from back in the day. I started rewatching that shit. I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm doing the fucking podcast. So we just bailed. Then I recorded one by myself. I didn't like the way it came out, but now I'm back with Jules. Jules, what up, man? We back.
Yeah, that's it, bro. You know what? We haven't been doing much lately. We're kind of enjoying the summer, even though it's like just officially started last weekend. I know Memorial Day, I was running around like crazy this past weekend, the same. So it's gonna be a busy summer for sure, you know. But listen, good things coming, right? That I'm liking the way the OTA's been going so far. You know, I don't know about you, but that's definitely been something that's been looked at, you know.
All the rookies have been playing, huh?
Yeah.
Reps in.
Well, and Darren Waller, you know, and a
Yep.
few other guys. So there's been a few guys in camp, you know, like they're saying that Sterling Shepard looks good. He looks healthy. He's a little ahead of schedule. Same thing with Wendell Robinson, who said back in January that he would be ready for week 1. So I mean, there's a couple of those type of things that have been standing out, which is great because we're getting to a point now with the wide receivers that we currently have. And again, I hate to be in this position and start talking like this because I feel like we've had the same sort of conversation the last fucking 3 seasons. But
Yeah.
this does feel different. I think that we're gonna see a big name cut from our wide receiver staff. Not like where we just have to like keep a certain player because of injuries and shit like that. You know what I mean? I could see one of these guys, and I don't know who it's going to be. I know Sterling Shepard's a name that's getting
Yeah.
close now where he could get cut. Darius
I can see
Slayton
that.
looked really good. Apparently, Isaiah Crowder has been running some really great routes in practice, and he looks like the veteran that we were assigning him to be. So, I mean, I kind of almost would see that it would be kind of a Shepard versus Crowder type of thing for one of those spots in that room.
Yeah.
Obviously the kid Hyatt, which we'll get into in a little bit later on in more detail. He's looking like the burner that we have. Isaiah Hodgins is a favorite to be the wide receiver 1. Listen,
That's
dude,
crazy. That's crazy.
it is. I mean, like I said, like I don't know what to think with it, when it comes to just strictly the wide receivers.
I'm gonna throw a big thing out there. My prediction, my bold prediction. I think Hyatt's gonna end up being our number one right out of camp, right out of
Wow.
training camp, right in preseason. I think he's gonna be the guy. Because honestly, like Isaiah Hodgins, yeah, he's great and everything, but he's not a number one.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He's a nice little like keep the drive going along like a Wes Welker type. You know what I'm saying? Like these guys like get the third downs, get big. He's not a big play guy. He's not a big deep ball threat. It's really like I think it's Hyatt and Waller's are deep ball guys. That's really
Right.
it.
And
And
Slayton.
Slayton too. Yeah, he gets open pretty deep.
And let's not forget Paris Campbell. That's what he
Yeah,
was
right.
drafted at. I mean, he was the number 2 guy in Ohio State with Terry McLaurin. And literally it was between him and Campbell as to who was going to be the better wide receiver coming out of college. And literally it just so happened that McLaurin's been healthy. He got the break to be the true number 1 on his team. And Campbell's just been going through injury after injury after injury. So that's been sort of his history so far with the NFL. But last year he put together pretty much a full season, and he had his best season as a pro. So, that's another wild card, right? So, that's where we have a lot of the guys that can all kind of do the same thing, which is kind of good in a way because this wide receiver crew, at the very least, might not look like the wide receiver crew where you have these big standout names, where you look at like the Seattles or some of these other teams with, great wide receivers, or even
Yeah,
the
right.
Eagles, which I hate to friggin' admit, but they got their staff. But they're guys that literally, if one guy went down, that next guy behind them is going to be just as good. I mean, think about it, right? If you have Shepard and then Crowder at their age, at this point in their careers, they're going to be kind of
Same.
interchangeable. They're interchangeable. So if one goes down, we got the other. Or, if you want to play one guy a little bit more in the first half and the other guy a little more in the second half, or vice versa, something like that, you have a fresh guy in there at that point, right? You got the speedsters and Jalen Hyatt and Paris Campbell, Darius Slayton. It's all very, very similar in their type of play. So it's going to be very interesting. That's where I don't think we have that true sort of number one. And that's where
Yeah,
Isaiah
we don't.
Hodgins kind of slips in just because of the way of he's built and the type of receiver that he is. But again, this day and age, a wide receiver one doesn't necessarily mean that guy that runs out in the X slot receive out there, and he's that guy going out there with one against number one corner. It's
Yeah,
not like that anymore in this day, So you can
true.
have an inside guy all of a sudden steps up and he's your number one receiver. I mean, and with all that said, it kind of leads into who's been making the most waves in OTAs so far is Darren Waller.
Darren Waller.
That might be our number one receiver right there. Think about it. I mean, if you look at what we're dealing with here, right? Yes, fine. Dable's the head coach, but Kafka's the OC. Kafka comes from Kansas City, where he's been coaching with Mahomes and Kelsey for the last, how many years he was over there at Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
And with the exception of Tyreek Hill, right? Where, look, Mike, you talk about Jalen Hyatt being the number one wide receiver. Look, he could. I'm not gonna say he runs routes like it, but he's got the burner speed like a Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, right.
And they put him into that type of spot. And now your main guy is Darren Waller, which they're saying it's like these two have been together for the last couple of seasons. The way that him and Jones have been playing in OTAs, and they're hanging out on in the neighborhood in New York City and on the town and everything else. So he could stay healthy. Again, I'm not saying he's going to go back to his Pro Bowl year and have 100 catches. But, man, he could be one of the better tight ends we've had in here since, like, Jeremy Shockey.
Yeah, hands down. That's the best tight end since Jeremy Shockey, of course. I could see him, that's a pretty nice – I think somebody said it was like a Kansas City Light. I think somebody said that on ESPN or whatever, like a Kansas City Light team. But listen, Waller, he had some injuries like everybody else, but it wasn't like major injuries. You know what I'm saying? Like a hamstring here. You know what I'm saying? A bruised knee there, whatever. So I'm not really concerned about him, coming here and missing any time. But to have him with that receiver core would be pretty nasty. I'll give you my top three that I think it's going to be wide receiver 1, 2, and 3. I think it's going to be Hyatt, Hodgkins, and, it's really on the third. It's between Slayton and Campbell. I want to see Campbell get that spot because I always liked his game. Slayton got a little bit of the dropsies, you know what I'm saying? But even though he's been here forever, so he'll probably get the notch above him. But I could see those three being the guys, and I think you're right. I think Shepard might be out the door. I don't think even though he's looking good, he's hurt every year, man. You can't rely on him, man.
Right, and that's just the problem. And it's one of those things too, where if he gets cut, the likelihood of him really signing somewhere else isn't going to be that high. Chances are he could hang around, wait for an injury, that kind of thing.
He's not signing anywhere, Jules.
Yeah.
Kenny Galladay still hasn't signed with anybody. You know what I'm saying?
That's a shocker.
Remember people were bitching. They were saying Daniel Jones, he ruined Galladay's career because he can't throw the deep ball. No, Kenny Galladay can't run deep anymore. He can't fucking catch 5-yard slants. It's his problem. Otherwise, he would have been signed by anybody else. Kansas City probably would have took him. They taken all our other garbage. You know what I'm saying? Like
you're right. There's so many other teams that are in need of a wide receiver. If Kenny Galladay was that good, knowing that he already got paid, so he would sign for like a minimum pro contract type thing, right?
Change.
Or veteran, whatever the hell they call it. And we go play for one of those teams. Why not? I mean, what, Green Bay can't use another wide receiver right now?
Right.
You know what I mean? I understand they got Dobbs and they got Christian Watson, but for real, they could easily use another wide receiver. I mean, I can go through the list for days. With
Rodgers?
Jameson Williams. I was going to say Detroit with Jameson Williams, suspended for the first 6 games of the year. You can't plug Kenny Galladay back in Detroit, played on. So,
go to the Rams, play with Stafford again, play with him.
Right.
Go to Rodgers, play with Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers. Instead they go with Cobb. How many lives does that guy got? You know what I'm saying? It's a little too much, man.
Listen, like I said, there's too many teams that are out there that if he was as good as they're saying, and it was really all Daniel Jones and not being able to feed him the ball, that he would be signed. He would be signed immediately. I mean, for that, it kind of leads into with this conversation is your boy D-Hop.
Yes.
Where's he gonna sign, right? Because he hasn't signed anywhere yet either, and there's a lot of rumors circulating, and there's a couple of weird ones out there too. So I want to hear what your thoughts are.
Dude, I mean, D-Hop is a true number one. Okay. Did people putting word out that he's lost his step? Get the hell out of here. I watched him play with some bums in Arizona last year because I had him on my fantasy team. I see that dude open a bunch of times. I'm like, throw him the goddamn fucking ball. He's open. He was wide open. I think D Hop was so frustrated last year that the last two games, he's like, nah, I'm not fucking playing. Like, I don't want to get like caught up. You know, everybody gets caught up when there's a free agent or where the guy gets released. Oh, the Giants should go look at him. I'm like, I never fall for that crap. But this guy, I fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker, man. He's that different type of guy. He gets open. True number one. He's gonna make everybody else that much better. Imagine him, Waller, Hodgkins.
Well,
You know,
I
saying
think Isaiah
Hyatt.
goes. I think Isaiah goes bye bye if we get D Hop. I
Ooh,
think he gets
ooh.
cut, but you know.
That's I tell you, it would be tough to turn down if he wanted to play here. I mean, they can figure out the money. I ain't worried about that. Like, and nobody else should really be worried about the cash. But I mean, I would be all in on him.
Well, from what I'm hearing is he wants to win, right? So like he's ready to win now.
We're winning. We're
Philly's not
winning.
ready to make a move for him. The Cowboys, they're one of the teams that kind of are being mentioned in their room, and even though they signed Brandon Cooks, but I mean, Jesus, if they got him, forget it, dude. I don't even want to talk about it.
No, fuck that.
And as I know I've shared before, I remember seeing him in his last game as a senior, or yeah, I believe he was a senior or junior, possibly even. So only on that. But when he played at Clemson, and Sammy Watkins was supposed to be the man, right? And everybody went there to go see Sammy Watkins, and Geno Smith played for West Virginia, and it was this big shootout. I think it was like a 72 to like 50 game. It was like forget it. It was like they were playing Madden or something. Like I was actually at, but yet I was at this game and it was live.
Mhm.
And I remember me and my brother just sitting there and we're like, yo, who the hell is this D Hop? Well, obviously we didn't call him D Hop then.
Yeah,
But like,
yeah.
who's this What is it? DeAndre Hopkins? Who is this kid? Because he was putting on a show. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, I guess he's getting open because of Sammy Watkins. And it was like, after a while, you were like, no.
Yeah.
I think this dude might be better. You know what I mean? And that was literally in college. And I'll never forget that game because as soon as he came to the pros and he went to Houston, he had Matt Schaub and he just went on fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
right.
he filled in for Andre Johnson and it was like, Andre who? Because if you remember, Andre Johnson was a fantasy
Man,
star down there
yeah.
big time. And then they got this kid, DeAndre Hopkins, and it was like, who was supposed to be here? Because don't forget,
Right.
Johnson was a stud in Miami, right? Coming out of college. So, you had all these guys, and he just stepped in, and it didn't matter what quarterback you had with him. This guy was just
Get
phenomenal.
it.
I mean, look, the whole reason why Deshaun Watson had the type of seasons he had was because he had Hopkins to throw the ball to. It was
Right.
incredible. You got a guy like that. He's that much a playmaker. Now, the
That's
other side to it, and this is the only sort of downside to it, is that he is getting to that wide receiver age, right? Where, they start to slow down. He hits his
30,
over
31.
30 at that point, right? Where they're just not as dominant as they once were, right? Because there aren't many. Like, listen, we've seen it happen to Calvin Johnson. You're seeing it happen to Michael Thomas now, who's not even 30 yet, but with all the injuries and everything that's happened to that guy, you've seen it happen to the
Crazy.
great Larry Fitz. I mean, I think Larry Fitz had a couple of good seasons in his early 30s, and then he started slowing down. And I love that guy. I used to take him in every fantasy team. That was my dude.
Yeah, right.
And the list goes on and on and on. Marvin Harrison, all the guys that I used to love when seeing them at that time, they hit that age and they do decline a little bit. They lose a step. They're just not, these younger corners are just able to body up on them and like hold them in place. So it does worry me that we might only get a season two maybe out of DeAndre Hopkins, right? Where you could see a team like maybe Buffalo, right? And I hate to fucking say it, but it's the truth, that if they got him and they lined him up against a side of Diggs, dude, Josh Allen's gonna have
I
a
know.
field, especially with that kid King Clay that they drafted, the tight end. Man, dude, automatically they just shoot up the fucking rankings for fucking wide receivers. And then you know what? The
Right.
Kansas City Bengals, all that shit, they got to worry about shit because
You would think.
damn, you know what I'm saying? But I can also see him sneaking to like maybe in New England, like out of fucking nowhere. They have Juju Smith, they have Jacoby
Yes.
Myers, and then all of a sudden they bring in D Hop because that's just fucking the Belichick way. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. He's gonna end up somewhere. He is healthy. So, I'm honestly surprised that here we are, almost a full week into June, and he hasn't signed. I'll be quite honest with you. So I don't know if he's just looking over options. He's just looking over whatever. He's just enjoying the summer for the OTA times, and right
Well, the
around
link.
training camp is when he'll make a decision. I don't know.
Well, the link is because you brought him up was the appeal to that he had with Deshaun Watson. He had that chemistry. So now they're linking him to Cleveland, which probably wouldn't surprise me, but why the fuck would he want to? Why would anyone want to go to Cleveland? You know what I'm saying? Like D Hop doesn't seem like he's the type of guy that would go there. But hey, that's for a different conversation, man.
And you know what? Like, listen, is Cleveland really ready to win now? Are they? I mean, if anything, right? I mean, like if
No,
you really, really wanted to like sort of pull teeth in a way, right? Is Cleveland really that much better than the Giants? I would think we're almost in the same category, if you would, right? In that sense, they got Nick Chubb. We get,
running game.
yeah, they got the
Uh,
running game. They have the quarterback now. I know they brought in a couple of people at wide receiver. I know they have the guy Peoples Jr. John Jones or something like that they have on their team. But then they bring in a veteran wide receiver. I'm trying to look it up right now. But
forgot
it reaches a point where it's just like, yeah, I get it. It'd be cool to see them sort of reunited, but do they really want to do it on Cleveland? Oh, I'm sorry. They brought in Amari Cooper. They brought in Amari
Oh,
Cooper.
okay, yeah.
They brought in Elijah Moore from the Jets.
Elijah Moore, all right.
Yeah. So and then they have Donovan Peoples, in there as well. And then they drafted Cedric Tillman in the third round, who was literally the 1A 1B with Jalen Hyatt over in Tennessee this past
Yeah,
season.
right.
Right? And one of the things that they'll knock on, say, Jalen Hyatt, and I guess we can get into him a little bit here, is that there was some weirdo fucking coach out there in the NFL that basically
Dallas.
said, I'm probably right, but of course he
So
goes anonymous and says that he's very naive and immature and all this kind of shit, and that he was a 1-year wonder in Tennessee and all this other nonsense. And it's like,
he
well,
called him squirrely. What the fuck does that even
yeah,
mean?
yeah, for real. Because first of all, he came out his junior season, so if he would have stayed back in college for one more year, he would have had a senior year, and who knows what he would have done in the senior year as the number one wide receiver on the
Right,
Tennessee Volunteers. But
right.
he knew that Tillman was leaving. He knew that the quarterback was leaving in
Hooker,
Hooker,
Hooker's,
right? And he
yep.
was like, "Yo, what am I sticking around for?" When I, especially back then, they were projecting him as a late first, early second, and
Yeah,
then he
smart.
fell to the third round. So you know what I mean? So like, like you can't knock that. And then if you look at Cedric Tillman, who they say is a more polished fucking receiver, the guy fucking had one good year too. And then he got hurt last year. He had 2021, then he got hurt. And they had some other guy there in 2021 because they weren't playing a sophomore. You know what I'm trying to say? In the SEC, in Jalen Hyatt, who still had the third most catches on his team his sophomore year, by the way. All right.
Right.
So it's like you can't read into these type of things. The guy's got speed. Now he's got a chip on his shoulder. And he like, listen, maybe he doesn't run the greatest routes, and that's fine. But I
It
don't
could
think
get
he's
better.
a one-trick pony type.
He could get better, and then our coaching
Absolutely.
staff is going to get him the ball. There's no doubt about it. You know what I'm saying? Like if we have weapons, they're going to get the ball. It's going to be a different offense. I'm telling you. People better start drafting Daniel Jones as one of their quarterback in fantasy. I'm telling you, man, he's going to put up some fucking points next year. You watch. It's going to
I'm
be a
just saying,
different
but like,
team, man.
and listen, speaking of Daniel Jones, he's been on like one of these like things with the Giants related, like saying that Jalen Hyatt's one of the hardest working players he's seen in these OTAs so far.
It's good
The
to
kid
hear.
keeps that work ethic going. Now, look, I don't think you're saying week one he's going to blow up and be that wide receiver one.
You watch.
Would it surprise me like mid-October he starts stepping up and taking over and being that guy? Absolutely not. Look, I don't care who you are, right? Even when Justin Jefferson blew up and everything else, he didn't blow up for the first few weeks. It took him a few weeks to get going because I remember I had taken him in my fantasy team, and if it wasn't for a couple of major injuries on a short roster, I had to cut him. And as soon as I cut him, he blows up the following week, and then I lost him. Right?
Yep.
So you know what I mean? Like it does happen. I've seen this happen. So I don't think he's going to literally come out the gate week one, nor do the Giants really have to hopefully rely on him to, right? Because if we do have a healthy Wendell Robinson, we do have all these healthy guys, Paris Campbell, some of these other veterans can step up and be effective for week one. Sure, will he play? Absolutely. But I just don't see him get the huge target share out of the wide receivers position in the first early couple of weeks.
Well, that's the major question. You brought him up. The reason why I didn't mention him because I don't think he's going to be ready for the start of the season is Wandale Robinson. I think he's probably going to end up on the PUP list. You know what I'm saying? Because he went down with ACL, December? You know what I'm saying? So it's going to, I think with the amount of wide receivers we got, I think they're going to baby him. And then eventually I think Wandale sneaks in to that 3-4 gadget type guy. You know what I'm saying? That we could use and run different screens or whatever. Because he started really coming on before his, freakish knee injury on that sideline at Giant Stadium, of course.
Of course.
But
we did change the turf.
Yeah, we did change it. So hopefully everything's a little better now, but we'll see. So keep an eye out for him later on in the year. Don't draft Wandell yet in fantasy. hide him, stash him, put him on IR, whatever you got to do. Maybe he'll, start to blossom again later on in the year.
And you know what? One other thing about Hyatt, it's hilarious, right? Because you're talking about
He's
a
my
guy
guy.
that,
I'm getting his
like I
jersey.
said, he was a true junior, which means that he is 21 years old.
It's crazy,
How
right?
many 21-year-olds are out
Fuck,
there that are going to be 100% mature and fucking not naive and whatever to the world? Like, that's the
yeah.
kind of shit I do want to hear. I want to hear that the kid's a little naive. You know what I'm saying? He maybe slightly immature. He's 21. He just turned able to fucking drink like a couple of months ago. You know what I mean?
That's,
Like, give the
that's
fucking kid a break. He's going to be in the league for another 10 years, hopefully. Like, give me, come on.
listen.
You know what I mean?
If he had that bad of an attitude, trust me, Dable and Joe would get rid of him like they did with Kadarius Toney.
Exactly.
Okay, they
Exactly.
wouldn't they would have never drafted him if they thought it was like him. So you could all put that shit to the rest. He'll be
And
fine.
you know what's funny too is there was like sort of like a like another the other side of the article version to it, right? Or the other side of things. And literally they were basically saying that, is this just like hate that's coming out to the Giants? Where people are just like straight up hating on them because all of a sudden they do have something in this kid, and they have a healthy Darren Waller, and like all of a sudden now we had the worst wide receiver freaking core in the NFL, and all of a sudden now it's not as much of a joke as it once was. You know what I mean? Where teams are going to really start to take this kind of serious in that case. I don't know. But one thing that is starting to worry me a little bit, and it kind of goes back to my prediction from last year, is what's up with your boy Saquon, man? He's still holding out, dude. And rumors have circulated to the point where he was offered $12, $13 million. Like, what the fuck does he want at this point, dude? Like, I don't know, man. I told you I was worried about your boy from day one. I know the Giants ain't gonna fucking cut him, but this is starting to sound like Le'Veon Bell 2.0, man. Like, it's starting to worry me a little.
It's
I don't know. What are your thoughts?
it's starting to worry me too a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. He him and his agent, I think they fucked up.
Yeah.
They should have they really
Oh,
should have
yeah.
took that money early on. Then all of a sudden, everybody and their mother seeing the way the running backs really weren't getting paid this time around. I'm like, I think there's free agents still around like Zeke and a couple other guys, McKinnon, guys that can't even
Wait,
get
David,
on.
you left off the list a couple of names, man.
Oh, there's
Kareem Hunt.
more.
Kareem Hunt is really
Kareem
starting
Hunt.
to whisper as a name that might end up as in blue, right? You still
That's
got Leonard Fournette that's just fucking hanging around.
Fournette.
Granted,
Like,
Lenny lost a step maybe, but like, he's still fucking, playoff Lenny from 2 seasons ago, right?
dude, it's bad. It's
you
bad.
know, like
It's bad news for Barkley.
for
You know what
real,
I'm
like
saying?
any of those guys could step in if they have to. You know what I mean? Like, look, would I much rather have Barkley over Hunt or Fournette or Zeke?
Obviously,
Right? Of
obviously.
course, without question. I mean, listen, you mentioned Zeke, and could you imagine Zeke coming in with a chip on his shoulder that no one else in the NFL wanted him? Dallas cut him for Tony fucking Pollard, and now he gets to play them twice in a year, and we get to play them week one. You don't think he's spilling the beans to fucking let us know everything that could fucking be thrown at us from a defensive perspective?
Dude,
Come
I
on.
don't know.
You know what
I
I
don't know.
mean? Like,
It,
like
it's going to be interesting. If you listen, we have Barkley for 1 year, no doubt. I think before, July, I think comes along, I think they're going to surprise people with a deal. I think they both come and get a nice little extension going, maybe like a nice little signing bonus. But listen, I'm excited about the rookie too. You know what I'm saying?
so
If
am
the rookie and him
So am
could play together and we don't have to get a guy like Hunter, God forbid, we get Zeke. I would hate the Giants if they got Zeke, Jules, by the way. That's fucking nuts. I quit my fandom if they got Zeke. I hate that dude. But listen, I think a deal actually gets done. I don't think people should worry that much. I think it's coming.
I listen, I hope you're right? Because like I said, like
Me
those
too.
names that I mentioned, they're serviceable veterans that are filling nice with the rookie and Breida and everyone else. But at the end of the day, I'd much rather have Barkley because he's obviously better, right? You know what I mean? And like having him with all the receivers we mentioned, with Darren Waller, with Daniel Jones stepping up now, like it'll be what we want to see. It's the offense that we've been waiting for all this time, and let's go. You know what I mean? It's game on. But I'll tell you though, man, your boy is starting really, really, really not and again, like you said, it's probably the agent, right? We'll blame
That's all it
her.
is. That's
We'll
all it
leave
is.
her nameless. She was trying to make a name for herself and,
Yeah.
and get herself out there in the industry, and it backfired. It does
Right.
happen,
Right.
right?
People fuck
Uh,
up out here.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like for real, like it's going to be interesting. But like I said, it would be kind of funny to see, a veteran like one of those veterans come in and step up for your boy. So we'll wait and see. I don't. This is the only time where I really don't want to be right because we passed draft, and if we knew for sure Barkley wasn't going to be there. Oh, I mean, I don't know what we do differently, right? Because
That's the thing.
you're not taking him over in the first round. You're not taking anyone over Banks, right? Because especially with the guys going the way they did, with the two top running backs going earlier in the top 10, pretty more top 12, whatever it
Right, we
was.
didn't have a choice.
We didn't have a choice at that
Yeah.
point, right? So then when you start falling to day two, what you're going to give up on the center? No way. You know what I'm saying? Because then that just hurts you for the future. Because now hopefully we got 3 stud offensive linemen that are young and going to grow together, right?
Right.
You know what I
That's
mean?
the
And then
whole.
we can start mixing and matching guards. Or we'll get another guard next season, right? If that's what we're missing on the offense, right?
Yeah.
And you start to see that develop. So and then what? Now we don't have Jalen Hyatt because we would have had to go out and get one of these running backs like a Tank Bigsby or something like that went in the third round. I don't know. You know what I mean?
I like what they were doing. I like the moves we made in the offseason. There was a writer from ESPN, Bill Barnwell. He said the New York Giants bought into their own hype and had one of the worst off seasons in the NFL. Like how I think people just do this because they know Giants like social media, Giants Twitter, Giants Facebook will give them all the fucking they'll give them the clickbaits, they'll give them the clicks, the likes, all that shit. I think they do it on purpose just to get our fan base riled up. You know what I mean? How do you just say that one of the worst off season? We got a tight end, we got more wide receivers, we built up the line, we signed the fucking linebacker, we signed all these pieces that we desperately needed, and he's saying one of the worst off season.
We drafted a corner in the first round. We signed some corner depth, right? You know what I'm saying? Like everything that needs to be addressed is sort of addressed at this point, right? And again, look, do we have that stud wide receiver? No, we don't. You know what I'm saying? We don't not yet. Let's just put it that way. Not yet. We don't have a true stud wide receiver. Look, in all honesty, if Slim Shady came over here, aka Devonta Smith, he'd be our number one wide receiver, right? So like Terry McLaurin comes over, he's our number one wide receiver. Like CeeDee Lamb comes over, he's our number one wide receiver. So yes, comparing to the division, we are still missing that element, right? But then again, if you flip it around, you say, well, who's got a Darren Waller? Right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Dallas doesn't. I know they drafted that other kid, in the first round, but we'll see what it turns out to be, right? Like Philly, they have Goddard. You could argue that Goddard's more in his prime, and with the way that they run their offense, that all right, arguably
he's gonna get
maybe his. And who's watched the guy? You know what I mean? Like go
I don't fucking know.
So, like,
right. I think we're okay in that area.
It's a different approach with what we're currently doing. And like I said, like I see a lot of the makings of what Kansas City does and with how they run their offense, especially if you look at the way Kansas City ran their offense last year. That's where you really kind of focus it, where Kelsey was that main thread. I mean, look, Juju Smith had a decent year, but any one of our guys could do what Juju Smith did.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And then who was their number two? I dare you to fucking tell me. You know what I'm saying?
I'll fucking know.
Think of it.
I didn't have him on my fantasy team. I'll tell you that.
For sure. I had Isaiah Pacheco and a little bit of CEH and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who isn't drafting anymore when it comes to fantasy. Like,
right.
That team won a Super Bowl. Granted, I understand Daniel Jones is not Pat Mahomes, and that is absolutely missing from the equation. Totally get that. I'm not going
there.
Know.
We know that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
People with common sense does, not Twitter.
Yeah, of course, right? But like, fine. So we have a poor man's version of them. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, we have the, a level down or two.
Right. Piece of shit. Yeah.
Right. But you could still try to run the offense through it. You could still try to, mimic what the Super Bowl champs do as far as the offense is concerned. You know what I'm saying? And then you have Wink with his defense. And let's fucking go.
If he puts up points and then let's go. It's not one of the worst off season. We're not going into the regular season with practice squad wide receivers. We got a whole bunch of veterans, whole bunch of guys. I think we'll be fine. But listen, we'll leave. I want to leave on a good note. Tyrod Taylor, man. I don't know if you noticed this, but he was in the Giants news, our backup quarterback. He decided to fund a wellness center in his hometown of Virginia. For people, mental health, and for the inner city youth, they have a place to go to educate themselves and to get themselves in check. So good job to Tyrod Taylor, man. We see our locker room, man. It's just different, man. A bunch of these guys are just doing good things. We got a good locker room finally. We're not a bunch of assholes. So I think we're on the right track to be not only successful for like a couple years. I think we're going to be good for a long time, and that's something the Giants have never had. If you
Yeah,
think
we
about
haven't
it, we
had
have
that. We
never
haven't
been
had
good
that
for like a
forever.
decade. It's always
Yeah.
been a couple years here, a couple years here. One guy shoots himself where we could have had a dynasty, and then it's something always happens to us. I think we finally got it right, right coaching staff, the right field now. I think everything's going to be up, up,
Well, I
up,
mean, listen,
and
if you
go.
go back to the LT and Banks days, that was somewhat of a dynasty. I mean,
It
they were
was
still
somewhat
good in 85. They won in 86, 87. They literally just lost it to, I think, Washington in like the NFC or something like that, championship or the round before or whatnot. Then they win again in 90 against Buffalo. Like, so like they had a
I
nice
know,
little
yeah.
dynasty and a run there too. You know what I mean? But
They,
you're right.
they always
It
had those
literally
lag
hasn't
years.
been since those fucking days and those kind of eras where you've seen it where, they're a legit contender for, 5, 6, 7 seasons in a row. You know what I mean? Where, yeah.
Right.
But, one thing to keep in mind is, and I actually had this discussion over the weekend, was that the AFC is so much harder this year. So much harder in comparison to conferences, right? Where, fine, you got the Eagles, you got to stack them up there. They're the fucking defending NFC champs, right? And then you
Right.
have what? The 49ers, you have maybe the Cowboys. What, we're going to throw Minnesota in there because we beat them.
Yeah, we
You
beat
know
them.
what I mean? Like,
It didn't get
who
any
the fuck
better.
else is?
They just
Right,
they
right.
just
Like,
got another wide receiver. That's
that's
all.
it. What the Rams got better all of a sudden again? Like they're gonna just fucking like relive their glory days from a year ago when they won the Super Bowl, where they just paid to win that 1 year.
Right.
And what Detroit's gonna take the next step, right? They're ready. They did beat us. I'll give it to them, but they're the ones that are gonna take this fucking next step because listen, people
We'll
are
see.
picking them to win the NFC North.
Well,
That's
I
just
mean,
that's just
yeah,
going out there as far as contenders there. But it's a very sort of winnable conference, if you will.
yeah,
Right? And yes, it does suck that we have to have like two of the better teams in our division and we have to play
right.
them sometimes. But I don't see us going, one what was it, 1-4-1 in the division again,
Yeah,
or
right.
5-1, whatever the fuck it was, right? Because we did beat Washington. So 1-4-1. I don't see that happening again. And it all starts with week one. And obviously, as we get closer to it, and we get down to that week one,
Beat the Cowboys.
it's going to be interesting. That's all I'm saying there.
That's it. All right, wrap it
Well,
up. Just
listen,
beat the
man. Yeah,
Cowboys.
yeah, beat the Cowboys is right. I'm actually watching a simulated game on John Madden for week one for the Cowboys versus the Eagles. But
Let's bet it. Let's bet
yeah,
on it.
that's fucking crazy. I am already for this season. I'm like, all right, it is only fucking June. We still got 3 solid months before week one. I get it. All right,
They'll
it's
be here
fine.
before we know it, though.
Yeah, but you're right. Especially with the summer, you keep yourself busy and you're running around and you go to the beach and concerts and vacations and all this shit. Before you know it, week one of the NFL season is here. And fucking, you
Right.
better be ready to rock and roll, Giants fans. But that's just how it is. We thought we'd check in. We'll be dropping in a couple more. We'll probably put something on the mic next week or the week after for sure. Definitely stay tuned. Stay watching us. We ain't going nowhere. That's for damn sure. But it's the Big Blue Offensive like the Big Blue Offensive podcast. Like and subscribe. We love it. We need the people to reach out and throw some comments in the thing. You want us to talk about a certain topic? Feel free to reach out to us.
Right.
Hit up Chad Powers. Throw out a topic you want to hear us debate, talk about, get it all fired up, and we definitely will. But until then, stay safe, and before you know it, the season will be here. Peace.
Go Giants.